So welcome to another episode of Coaching Outdoors, and today we have Boersma, and I had the delight of meeting Kat in person, which is always a treat these days, actually, as we kind of get face to face, when I was over in Amsterdam in April for a conference, and we sat and had a coffee, and we've always wanted to have Kat onto the podcast, so it was a delight to kind of meet in person and then get this date in the diary. So Kat, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
If you could just introduce yourself and just explain kind of where you are as well. We've got a beautiful kind of setting that we can see for anyone who is watching.
Yes, because this is not typical Dutch. So my name is Kat Boersma. I'm outdoor coach for expats in the Netherlands, and currently on a holiday with my family in Somerset. And what you were referring to just now is I'm on a 2-month retreat here in the UK of doing absolutely nothing, and which is like a delight.
And that's really lovely, isn't it? And we'll touch on a little bit of what people use the word retreat in so many different ways these days, so it's lovely to actually hear your personal journey and your personal choices there. Before we go into a bit of detail around your coaching, especially with the expats, we'd love to know, we ask all of our guests the same first question. We'd love to know what your earliest memory or first memory of being in the outdoors is, and why you love the outdoors so much.
Well, I started listening to your podcast summer last year, so I had a long time to think about this question, and I couldn't come up with one specific answer, because as a kid I lived on a farm. My parents were not farmers, but we rented a house on a farm, and we were always outdoors. I cannot remember that we were ever indoors. Come rain, come shine, we would be helping out on the farm. It would be a dry ditch where we were building huts. We would be helping getting the hay bales in. We were always outdoors. So that's a bit my earliest memory, is we were always outdoors, never indoors.
And what was it about being outdoors that you specifically enjoy so much?
I have to say that when we moved from the farm, I was about 15, and we moved to a little village. Actually, we started to be more indoors, and it wasn't until I was 25 where I rediscovered my love for being outdoors. But I didn't consider it as my love for being outdoors. I thought it was just very natural. We need to go outside. We just need to be outside. By then, our son was 4 and very busy, very hyperactive. And I was like, he needs 2 hours outdoors, at least after school, just to let off some steam. We've always had a dog, and I'm always making sure that we have a dog. So we need to go outside. So it wasn't a conscious thing for me, but it has to be a part of my DNA. I need to be outside. Like, I have an allotment. I like to dig, but I never considered it very much, how do you say this, a love for the outdoors. It's just part of my DNA. I just need to be outside. If I'm indoors for too long, like I have an office day, after so many hours, I just really need to go outside, or else I'm going to be hyper. I need to get that energy out.
And I do find it quite slightly amusing that you're down in Somerset, which is clearly next door to Wiltshire, which is where I normally am.
I know. We talked about this.
We swapped, and I'm actually out on the west coast of Scotland with Alex. And it's great to be able to do some of these kind of recordings in person. Though this idea of your personal retreat, and I remember when I met you, you were telling me about it, and I was a little bit jealous. This idea of kind of setting aside 2 months of just nothing. And I'm like, wow, how could I do that and fit that into my life? And so it would just, as we kind of get kickstarted, because I'm sure other people will be listening to this will be kind of going, oh, I want to have a personal retreat. And what kind of led you to making this decision to like, right, this is what I'm going to do? How is it going so far? And then clearly kind of bringing nature into it. Like, how is your relationship with nature supporting you during this period? And I'm kind of aware there's a few questions in there, so feel free just to roll with it.
The idea came about like a year ago, and I was still doing an extra coaching course, and I saw women just taking 2 months off of work. I was like, are they mad? This is not how I'm raised. I'm raised to work hard all the time. And I thought, yeah, they're a bit crazy. And then I saw them doing it, and I saw what benefits they got from it. And I thought, oh, wait, that's not such a bad idea actually to do. And then I told my husband about it. Well, what if I'd go away for 2 months? This is a year ago. I was like, By summertime, he was talking to somebody, and he said, she's always on. And with that, he means I'm always working. It's either something for the kids, it's either for my business, it's family. There's always something. So I was like, he's getting it. And I was like, okay, book things, book boat, book house. And because we also have 2 teenage girls, 14 and 16, they need to get used to the idea, okay, mom's not going to be there. So certain tasks we need to divide. So who's going to do what? And the year of preparation has been a journey on its own, even before I left. It's, of course, I had to let go of certain things and give them the responsibility. And where I wanted to go for me was really important. I wanted to go to a place where I felt safe and knew the environment just a little bit, just to be able to get around. And the cottage that I'm renting in York, I've been to many times. And for me, there was way much more to discover in walking around there. All these public paths that you can get lost on. And I said to my husband, the one thing that I really want to do is I want to walk. It doesn't matter where I'm going, but I just need to walk. And I'd love to go in springtime. Just see nature coming out of that winter sleep and bursting back to life, the colors, the greens. And so the decision was made. I went to York. I've been there 2 weeks before we came here on a holiday, and I absolutely loved it. And the cottage that I'm renting has a little patio, and you look out on the meadow and there's nothing except early in the morning there are pheasants and there's deer out there, and it's just like you're sitting there with a cup of tea and you just do this. There's just nothing better. So were all the questions answered?
Yeah, it sounds idyllic, and I think it's been an inspiration. I think so many of us would love to be able to do that. And I know some people go away on sort of organized retreats where they're going to, with people.
Yeah, but say that to me. If I had a choice, I'd be going to Spain on a beach. I was like, what's the fun of being in a beach for 2 months? I mean, nice for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but for 2 months? No, I just want to get out there, walk. The weather doesn't have to be great. Even if it's raining, just go out.
Absolutely. And I think it shows that it is possible. Like you said, if you prepare and you plan and you put the right structure in place behind you, it means that you are then mindful and present where you are now. Absolutely. Rather than having to worry about whether your kids are being fed or whether they're managing to do the washing.
Specifically
I think that is absolutely lovely. So what it would be really lovely to do now is hear a little bit more about your coaching backstory, how you got into coaching, and then how you turned your coaching practice into an outdoor coaching practice, how you built the outdoor element into your coaching.
So after my second one was born in 2005, I started as a social worker, a job which I absolutely love because I'm really good at troubleshooting. Just give me a problem and I'll solve it for you, no problem. But within that, there is the danger of doing too much for people. And I started to do too much. So I would take the complete problem, pull it to me, solve it, and then hand the solution back. And I think people need to made responsible for their own solutions. You can find it, it's within you. And So it became very frustrating for me. Like, you can do this. Why are you pushing it my way? And there was a bit of push and pulling in that work. And I was like, oh, I've got all these great qualities. What am I going to do? If I stay in a job, I'm pretty sure I'm going to burn out at one point. And I'd been seeing a life coach for 10 years already. A lovely lady named Sylvia. I'm still seeing her occasionally. Sometimes just for a shoulder to cry on. And sometimes just for a session outdoors, just to put things in perspective again for myself. And I was like, Sylvia, I'm at a loss. What am I going to do with this? Because I don't know. And she says, what is it that you want to do? And I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. You need to tell me. And she says, let's invest a couple of sessions in this and see what it is that you want. And by the end of the couple of sessions, and I was like, I want to do your job. And she started to laugh. She says, well, you've got all the qualities within the work that you're already doing as a social worker. You're doing basically the same thing, only you're going a step further. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to do your job, but I want to be qualified for that one. And then she says, well, I'm one of the tutors in a coaching course. And it was like just before COVID. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to join your course, but you need to teach me. You need to be my teacher, or else I'm not going to do this. And the institute where I registered said, yeah, well, that's probably not going to go ahead because of the lack of students. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? How badly do I want this? And a week before, they phoned me and said, it's going ahead with the teacher that you want. I was like, yes. So I started just like, as I said, beginning of COVID. And it wasn't like lesson number 4 or 5. Great weather, just like today. We'd been indoors for a couple of hours already. And I was like, I need to go outside. They gave us an assignment to do with 2 students together. And I was like, can we do this outside? I just need to go outside, because just staying in this building, it's a lovely building. It's in the city center. It's historic. It's not, I want to go outside because there's a lovely garden. And I was like, oh, you can do this outside. Okay, come, let's go outside with my fellow students. And while I was coaching, and one of my fellow students was coachee, in my head, I had all these questions that I wanted to ask the coachee. And all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and it's like my body's telling me, no, no more questions. You need to step aside because she needs to get to the next tile. And I was like, so in my head, there's this conflict, and I go like, body, head. Okay, so I stepped away, let her pass to the next tile. And that's actually where the click was for me. I was outside. I was connecting with my body, and my body was telling me what to do. And I was like, that's it for me. Ended that day, went to the register desk, and I said, I want to do the outdoor coaching now. So I moved smoothly from one into the other and did my outdoor coaching at the same time.
And I think that's almost the fact that you had access to an outdoor coaching qualification, like a course that was like literally on your doorstep.
Yes,
that's really unusual. And particularly in the UK, and we've been fortunate to have conversations with coaches from all around the world. There's not many of these courses available. So the fact that you were there, you took advantage of it.
Oh yeah.
It just as kind of a summary of how you found that course, because clearly that's been a great stepping stone for you, right place, right time.
Yes.
And it just led through. So just be great to have a little kind of summary of that course and how it was for you.
I'm just going to move a little bit to the side. Coming out of it. Sorry, repeat the question again.
So just the course. So the fact that you've been on an outdoor coaching course, and it was literally there. It wasn't as if you had to like hunt it out or anything. It was just literally like, wow, okay, let's do this. That's really unusual. Like a lot of our watchers and listeners have not had access to that. Particularly in the UK, there's very, very few courses. I think Leslie Roberts has one, who is a previous guest that we've had on the show. Though other than that, qualifications wise, it's been more, you kind of have a little flavor of this and a flavor of that, and then you pull it together. But the fact that you have been through a dedicated outdoor coaching qualification, that's quite different. So it'd be great just to have a quick kind of summary of your experience with that, just so our listeners can kind of gain a bit of an understanding of what it was like?
I know that where I did the course, they even do the course in the UK. So they're not just here in the Netherlands, they're also in the UK. It was back then a 5-day course, and all sorts of techniques what I had in my basic coaching. He took it outside and he explained, instead of doing it this way, you can do it this, and this way, like a family constellation. You can do it with little Playmobil dolls, wooden dolls, but you can also like draw it outside on the floors. Like, of course you can. Everything that you can find in nature says you can even use stones if you want to. One of the things is walking along a path, and that's the path of your life. And I thought there were so many great things that actually I want to do the course again in a couple of years' time, just to freshen up things and see what I have learned and what we can then turn into a tool in outdoor coaching. Because I think there's so much more possible.
No, thank you for that. And clearly your coaching work, the market that you specialize in is with expats.
Yes.
And how did you make the decision to focus on this group of individuals? Because it's quite a discrete audience.
Yes, it is. I mean, the coaching world is really big, and I went back to this one. I've been a member of the Expats group in Utrecht, a women's contact group for women who come to the Netherlands either for a partner, study, or just because they want to live in the Netherlands. And so I've seen people come in short term, long term, move out again. But I've also seen, and that's, I think the biggest thing is depression. Expats can tend to raise the bar very high for themselves, and not having a support network here, or not finding support with your family, friends back home, because, hey, you're living the high life, so what are you talking about? Well, actually, you're living a normal life, but just not in your own country. So you're facing everyday problems, and they feel like it's bigger. If you specifically don't speak the language, if you have not found a tribe yet, you have no support network yet in wherever you live at that moment. So depression is one of the key things I come across. And that's, I think, what triggered me, as I'm familiar myself with depression personally and through my work. And I think it's really easy. It only takes something of a 2-millimeter shift in your attitude to turn the tide on a depression, if you catch it early enough.
And it's really interesting that that's one of the kind of key themes that has come out for you in your experience with the expats, and then utilizing that to as you said, sort of identify your niche in the coaching world.
Yes.
It would be lovely if you could help us to understand a little bit more about how the world of outdoor coaching helps the expats with this theme around depression, or any of the other themes that have come up. And if there are any sort of examples or case studies that you can share with us. Our listeners love a good story and a good example. So so how is the outdoor coaching helping these expats, and what kind of examples can you give us?
I think it's more my experience with outdoor, just being outdoor, just taking the walk, just taking the dog for a walk, and what it can do for you mentally. And in my work as a social worker, everything is always in an office, and you're sitting across from each other, and it's very confrontational. And I want to take that element away by going outdoors and then walking side by side to somebody towards a horizon where they can see their own possibilities. And that's, for me, in outdoor coaching, I think the most important thing is just going outside, putting your feet on the ground, just feeling on what are you actually walking on. Because in some of my sessions, I'm just asking, after you've walked for 10 minutes, what are you actually walking on? Did you feel what you're walking on? And it's just a mind shift where you can see people. If we step into my office, I tell my coaches, just leave everything behind here. Put that imaginary backpack, take it off, leave it here, and step into my office. And the first couple of times, somebody goes like, "Oh, okay," and after they've been a bit longer with me, it's like, oh, take off the backpack and finally here I can go for a walk. I think that's what outdoors is for me, just off the beaten track.
And I remember from our conversation as well, you mentioned that in your bag you often carry some juggling balls. I
don't have the juggling balls, but I've got these.
Bubbles. I use bubbles in a lot of my work too. Bubbles are the best kind of play. You give an adult a pot of bubbles to play with, and they look a bit confused, and they open them, and then everything, the face changes, the body language changes. You hear them giggling, and I love. So what's with the juggling balls?
Well, as a coach, you can get stuck in a conversation, and you go like, I'm not sure which direction we're going in. And one of my teachers said, okay, you get a juggling ball, you start throwing, and you call out vegetables, or you call out colors, or cars, or whatever you fancy. And just like with the the bubbles, I think it's very important to reconnect with your inner child, and let go of certain worries, and things will pop up. Once you're doing that, you can ask the person, okay, close your eyes, and how are you feeling now? And then you'll find a new angle in your coaching session. And it's okay to show, as a coach, that you're vulnerable and that you don't always have to know things. And this is why I like to use this one.
I love the way that you've got them for anyone who's listening in. We've literally got the bubbles there.
The bubbles are there.
Oh. So diving into challenges, and this is always a bit of it can be a bit of an uncomfortable one. It's almost like, well, what's the biggest challenges that you've faced, if you're willing to go there and share? That is, I think during a session, whether it's setting your business up, because often, you may be the world's best coach, and then there's the business piece of it, which is just kind of completely different. And ultimately, how do you attract your clients? So yeah, your biggest challenges, if you're faced, move through these and solve them.
One of my first coachees, she sprained her ankle. She couldn't walk. So I offered I could come to your house, you can sit in your garden, and it doesn't matter where we are, we could coach anywhere. And she says, I'd rather come to your house, no distraction from my children. And I initially said, yes, that's okay. And I thought, yeah, but these are my things, that's my tree. How will that work? And I thought, you know what, just let her come. Because in that moment, it's not my thing. In that moment, it's her coaching session. And if she wants to use one of these things, it's okay. But I was very apprehensive about come to me in, say, my world, instead of just being in the great outdoors. It worked. So I had to overcome something. And she didn't even notice. She was really happy with the coaching sessions in my house. And we did some coaching sessions out later on when she recovered from a sprained ankle. And another thing is setting up your own business. As a social worker, I have a very static business. I don't have to do a lot. I just have to say to a couple of people, yeah, I can have some clients in my caseloads. They come rolling in. I don't have to do anything about social media or promotion or anything. And when I started this coaching business, you have to do so much more in putting yourself out there. There's nothing static about it. I needed to learn how to use Instagram. My 16-year-old daughter, please help mommy, because she has no idea what she's doing. These little obstacles, and that's technology. That's just I had to really get used to it, and I've got the hang of it after 2 years of just trying and doing and failing and succeeding. I think, those were the biggest obstacles, just putting yourself out there.
It is interesting, isn't it, when you start to do something for yourself like that, and I guess a lot of people listening, and I went through exactly the same thing. And you know the skill that you want to use, because that's why you're doing the coaching, but then all these other skills are needed around it to make it successful. You do need to, like you said, put yourself out there, find your marketing channels, do your business, all that sort of stuff, which isn't necessarily what we want to do. We want to be outside, and a lot of that stuff you can think about it, but the actual physical doing of it sometimes requires you to be inside, especially with a laptop on your in hand.
Yes.
So it's almost a bit counter to what our actual love and our
Yes.
passions are. So it's difficult, isn't it? And there's always a challenge balancing those out. So I think that probably a lot of people will be listening thinking, I know what that's like.
Yes.
And it's always useful, I think, to talk to somebody who's done it and just learn like this, ask them a couple of questions. What were your biggest challenges? What were your biggest learning points? And it just helps to kind of go, oh, okay, so hopefully I can learn from that and do things a bit differently. So you've shared some, I mean, just a great example of your journey into from the social work side of things into coaching and then into outdoor coaching, especially bringing your love for nature into your business, which is, you know, what Anna Marie and I have done as well, and just trying to find a way to do that. Were there any resources along the way that you can recommend to our listeners and our followers, especially maybe from your course or any, it could be books, it could be other podcasts, it could be websites, anything that you think it would help people to kind of either start their journey or help them along, especially in those sort of early years?
Well, last summer I was looking for more material and I came across your podcast, and that's the best thing I can recommend. I told you over coffee already. What I can do, because I haven't given that yet, is the website for that English course, Outdoor Coaching. That as a resource, because the guy who's how do you say this? Creating the program for the outdoor coach is really good. He's got so much experience, and I think that will be a really good one. His name is Peter Kryger, and in the Netherlands, where I studied, it's called Atma Institute, but he's got a specific English website for the outdoor coaching, and I think they do their courses in Kent for a very reasonable price. But yeah, your podcast, I mean, that was the very first thing I found, and I've read all the books that all the previous coaches recommended or movies that have been watched. Just go to your resource pages. I think that will be.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, this is why we often refer to this as our passion project, and we started it because we wanted to help other people find resources and connect, because we wanted to do that ourselves. So it's almost a little bit selfish. We wanted to connect with people all over the world who do what we do or something similar, and help other people to do that as well. So it's lovely that people are finding the podcast and listening. And if any of our listeners want to connect with you, where could you signpost yourself on social media, or if you've got a website that people can come and find you after they've listened to today?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram under Bluebell_coaching. You can find me on LinkedIn, but do look up my last name, Boersma. And yes, I have a website as well, bluebellcoaching.com, because I changed the last couple of times, thinking, what shall I do? .nl, no, that's not very handy. I wanted international, so .com.
And that's so true. I went through the same when I was setting up my business. It's like, well, what do I do? Is it UK? You know, when I set up the website, I was living in Saudi Arabia at the time. So it's like, well, it's not really the British market that I'm going from. So it's .com. And again, those are the business decisions that as a coach, you may not have, you know, the business knowledge to kind of move through. And just about the Bluebells, what inspired the Bluebell coaching name?
Oh, this is also why I'm in the UK. I want to see bluebell fields. It's possible. It's such a hardy little plant. It goes underground for 3 seasons, and then it comes back in spring. Strong, vibrant, the green, the purple. It's magic, and it comes back again every year after year, and better.
It's one of my favourite plants. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I like that very much.
And again, that's another part of it when we're inviting different guests on. It is a part of how are they, you know, what are their business called? And when you look across all the guests that we've had and the different business names that they've had, it's just how things kind of shift and change, and that relationship with nature and how it kind of indicates it. And, you know, for me, my business, Reach for More, has nothing on the tin about, you know, nature or outdoor coaching. It's only when you kind of go into the website. And I kind of keep thinking to myself at the moment, you know, do I need a rebrand? Is it like outdoor coaching and create that as a completely separate entity and have, you know, my more endurance ultra running as something separate? And it's one of those, you know, websites can involve an inordinate amount of time and money, which in a way can detract from when you want to do your core offering and serve your clients. So it's yeah, it comes around in circles, and websites one of those things that they're never finished or done.
No, it's I can't call my business onion, but I describe it as an onion. You peel off a layer every time, and then there's a new layer, and there's new things to discover, and there comes a new layer. And yes.
I think that's what's exciting as well, is about us as coaches, as we mature and our practice becomes, you know, as we mature, our practice deepens, and we go and how do we change ultimately, because we are, you know, organic and fluid as well. We're having that kind of growth mindset. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time on your retreat. And I do think this idea of a personal retreat, and us having a conversation with someone about, you know, before we used to be like, oh, I'm going on holiday, and then now it's kind of like, oh, I'm going on retreat. And this difference, particularly as we live in this kind of hybrid world where work and life, it gets very more blurry and messy, and people don't seem to be taking traditional, you know, holidays per se. It's more kind of micro holidays, long weekends, and actually this need for a retreat to get away as the pace of life increases. So, you know, thank you for giving us an insight into that and what you are getting from it as you're in the midst of it. We've kind of broken into it in a way, and you've still got several weeks left, so enjoy. But then also your kind of coaching journey and working within this kind of unique area, working with expats. And I think that really illustrates to our listeners and watchers that yes, you can work within the outdoor space, which in itself is, you know, a part of the huge coaching profession that we live in. And then actually for you, you've gone even further than that and identified a real key target market. So, you know, a massive thank you for giving us the time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and just would like to, you know, signpost to our listeners and watchers, you know, this is one episode of many. We're now on series 4, which in itself is really exciting. So do check out the other episodes if you have not had a chance yet. So thank you, Kat. Thank you.
So if you enjoyed what you've heard, like it, share across your network, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and LinkedIn community page, the Coaching Outdoor Podcast. Thanks so much in advance for your support.